Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we're going to be talking about the Leatherman Surge, and I apologize in advance if this video runs a little bit long because I have a lot that I want to cover with the Leatherman Surge. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll no doubt know that I have a fairly extensive collection of multi-tools, so I pretty much have my choice of what I choose to carry. And the Leatherman Surge has been my EDC since its inception in 2006. So for over 13 years, I have carried the Leatherman Surge, and there is a reason behind that. Actually, there's multiple reasons behind that we're going to cover today. So we're going to jump into some of the specs of the Surge, then show you through the tool set, and then kind of give you some of my thoughts and opinions on why I think this is the best multi-tool out there. And is it perfect? No, it's absolutely not perfect. There are a couple things that I would like to change if I had my choice, and we're going to talk about those as well. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we hop into the tool set, let's take time to get rid of or get through some of the specifications for this multi-tool. First and foremost, this is a large frame multi-tool or a heavy duty multi-tool. So it's going to come in a 4.5-inch frame in its closed position, which is about 114 millimeters. If you measure the width of the Surge in its closed position, it is about 1 5/8 of an inch wide from outside to outside, or about 41 millimeters. And the thickness of the Surge is a very solid 13/16 of an inch, or about 20 millimeters. Now, this is also not a light tool. At 12.5 ounces, or just a touch over 12.5 ounces, or 355 grams, this is going to be one of the biggest detractors for a lot of people in the Surge. It is a very heavy multi-tool when you compare it to other multi-tools that are on the market. The Surge is more of your all-in-one toolbox approach, and it's what works best for me, coming from a construction and fabrication from blue collar. The Surge just fits my needs better than any other multi-tool out there, and that includes some of its main competitors, including the Leatherman Super Tool 300 or the Victorinox Swiss Tool, which are also both great multi-tools. But I gravitate towards the Surge for multiple different reasons, and we're going to get into those here in just a little bit. So let's start with the outside tools on the Surge, and one thing I want to point out, which is something I forgot to mention in my Leatherman Wave Plus video, but we're going to talk about the knife blade. So on the spine of the knife blade, you'll notice that it is smooth across the standard blade, and on the serrated blade it has some jimping. And the reason for that is blindly, or as you're pulling it out of your sheath or pocket or whatever, you are able to run your thumb across there and you can tell immediately which blade you have. And if it's the wrong one, just rotate it 180 degrees and get to the right blade. So the first blade is the main blade. This is the only downside to this, is that it is only available in 420 HC. Now, it's not a bad blade steel. It's easy to sharpen up. I really like the blade design. I like the blade design on the Surge and the Wave and Charge series. I think they are excellent blades. The other knife is our fully serrated blade. Now, it is going to be, I forgot to mention, the length on that is about 3 1/16 of an inch, or about 79 millimeters. So the length on the serrated blade is going to be exactly the same at 3 1/16 or 79 millimeters. Now, the serrated blade has mostly fully serrated blade, but it also has draw cut capability at the front. Then we have one feature that not every multi-tool has, and that's outside accessible scissors. Surge has fantastic scissors, and you'll notice that on the thumb rest for the scissors, it's actually quite a bit thicker. It makes it a lot more comfortable. Also has a little bit of jimping there for extra grip. So, well, I actually don't have it all the way open there. There we go. The Surge scissors are actually one of the best scissors that I've ever used on a multi-tool. I love these scissors, and they have handled every task that I've ever put in front of them. Then if we flip around to the opposite side, you're going to find a feature that is exclusive to the Leatherman Surge. So the first thing we have up is the file. Now, we have a crosscut combination wood metal file, an edge file, and then the file that I like the most, which is the diamond coated file. The reason I like the diamond coated file is because I use it a lot in metalwork. It is one of those items that you're not going to get in every multi-tool. Only comes from Leatherman as far as being inserted into multi-tools and only on a very few selected models. Now you'll notice that it has a T-shank, Bosch T-shank style fitting here. That allows you to use this slot for two different implements. And that's how the Surge is unique to other multi-tools, is where most are limited to 4 main outside tools: the saw, file, 1 or 2 knife blades, and then a pair of scissors. The Surge doesn't have that problem because it's able to implement 2 of those fixtures into one slot, and so we're able to get all 5 tools. Now the downside to that is, if we pull out, let's get the Leatherman Wave out. The only downside to that is, when we're looking here at the saw blade, you'll notice that the saw blade on the Wave is actually just a touch longer, even though it's a smaller frame multi-tool. So, and that's going to be the same, that's going to be true of other multi-tools as well, from standard duty to heavy duty. In most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, the Surge file and their saw is actually going to be slightly smaller or slightly shorter than what you're going to find in competitive multi-tools. Now, the benefit to having this system is obviously we can have all 5 tools instead of 4 on the outside. But the next is, because it is a Bosch T-shank style, now we're able to add in any jigsaw blade that incorporates the Bosch T-shank. So now we have a longer saw blade. Now if we compare that again to the Leatherman Wave, you'll find out that we have drastically increased our capability with the Leatherman Surge, because we are able to add on different accessories to it that we can't do in any other multi-tool. One of the best features of the Leatherman Surge. Now the tension bar here is for some of the smaller or the thinner aftermarket blades that you're going to get. So you can actually, if you want to add a metal cut saw, you could do that. So we're going to pull both the saw and the aftermarket saw here together so that we can see the thickness of the T-shank. And you'll notice that on this particular blade, they're almost identical in thickness, where if you get into some of the other jigsaw blades, they're going to be a little thinner. And what that allows you to do, or the benefit of having this style, is that they incorporate this spring tensioner, which actually holds down those thinner blades to keep them from rattling around. Now they're going to have some movement, they're not completely stable, and they're not attached to the tool, so there is going to be a little bit of movement, but no other multi-tool gives you the option to add on extra tools like that than the Leatherman Surge. It is the only one that is available like that, and one of the biggest reasons why I love the Surge. Now if we flip around to the pliers on the Leatherman Surge are extremely robust. They're going to come with needle nose, regular pliers, which in the case of, let's just compare it one more time to the Wave. In the case of the Wave Plus, you'll notice that when they added 154 cm replaceable cutters, they lost a little bit of the plier real estate. Now, because the Surge is a larger frame tool, it doesn't have that problem. It's able to maintain the full length pliers, standard pliers, and have 154 cm replaceable cutters and hardwire cutters behind that. And those are a great feature as well. Now, I've never personally damaged any of my multi-tool cutters. I don't know why that is, because I cut on some pretty heavy stuff, but I've just never had the occasion, or never had that happen to me. Maybe it's because I always felt that, like with the Wave, that it wasn't capable of doing some of those larger tasks, and so I would go get the real tool for performing that task, as opposed to trying to do it with my multi-tool. In the Surge, I actually feel more comfortable with it, and well, in this design. In the original, in the first generation, where it didn't have those cutters, I didn't necessarily try to overwork it, I guess is how I want to put that. Behind the pliers, we have stranded wire cutters, and directly behind the stranded wire cutters are a set of wire crimpers. Now the wire crimpers they work decently. They're not going to be direct replacements for what you're going to find in a standard electrician's plier, where you have dedicated wire crimpers, but they do work fairly well, especially from 14 up to actually down from about 16 to up to 12 gauge. They work really well, and sometimes 10 gauge. It's a little bit large for 10 gauge, but it does get the job done in most cases. Then if we get into the inside tools, we're going to start on this side where we have 3 separate tools. So the first one is a smaller slotted driver. Then we have the large screwdriver, which is 5/16 inch slotted screwdriver, and it also works well as a pry tool, something that Leatherman does not call out on the Surge. They in other multi-tools that they offer on some of the large screwdrivers, they also say that it's a pry tool, but in the Surge for some reason they don't. So they list it as 21 different functions. I actually counted it a little bit higher than that because I think that some of those implements have multiple functions. And then we have the awl. Now the awl on the Surge is fantastic. It is an awl reamer and it does have the sewing eyelet. Now that is something that I probably will never have occasion to use, but it is nice knowing that it is there in the event that you need it, for those that do. On the opposite side, we have the 3 combination tool, which I really like. This is a great can opener for starters, and while I don't have occasion to do a lot of camping, I really don't have the time for it. I work on the road a lot, and so I can tell you from experience that you really get tired of eating out all the time, and sometimes you just want to make your own food. Well, because you're working on the road, you don't always have your tools with you or everything you need, but that can opener has come in quite handy for me working on the road and having the ability to open up canned goods. Then it has a bottle cap lifter. The bottle cap lifter is decent. It's not excellent, but it does get the job done. And then the wire stripping functionality. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll notice that I do my wire stripping in a little bit different method than other people do. So what I do is I depress it so that I can jam the wire between the frame of the tool and the cutters themselves, and then I can add pressure to the back side with my thumb, and then I'm able to rotate the tool around the wire as opposed to trying to rotate the wire into the cutters. It just works much better for me. Now, the Surge will not get down in that method. It will not get down very well on 18 or 16 gauge. 14 gauge is where it really starts working well, and it will work all the way up to 6 gauge. As a matter of fact, the higher the gauge of wire that it goes, the better the cutters perform. The next tool over, the last tool that we're going to be looking at on the Surge, is actually one of my favorites. So Leatherman has a variety of different multi-tools where they have this bit exchanger, and I love the bit exchanger. I love how they incorporated this in some of their multi-tools. So it's going to come with a combination number 1, number 2 Phillips, and on the opposite side is going to be a 3/16 slotted driver. Now, the ability that the bit exchanger gives you is that you can add on your extension if you choose to purchase one, and it gives you the ability to add on a bit kit. Now, a bit kit is going to greatly increase your functionality of your driver capability. So it comes with 40 standard bits and then a replacement, which is more for the Wave Charge series of the eyeglass screwdriver, double-ended screwdriver. So it allows you 40 additional extra bits plus that smaller bit. Now, with the driver, the reason I like it so much is because now I can put the bit on the end and I can work it in a multitude of different fashions. I can use it in a closed position, and if I have a stubborn fastener and I need high torque, then I can put it in this pistol grip formation. Allows me to get a lot more behind it. And then if I need extra reach, I can open it up all the way and it gives me a substantial amount of reach. If I'm, as an example, trying to loosen a fastener that's inside of a deep electrical box, that really works well. So the driver functionality on the Surge is something that is one of the big selling points for me, and it was one of my largest criticisms of the new Free series that came out, is that they eliminated that, and I don't understand why they did that, because I think a lot of people feel the same way. Now, it also has a stamped ruler, which is 8.5 inches. If we get turned around the other way, 8.5 inches or 21 millimeters, or excuse me, 21 centimeters. If I use that for various different tasks, mostly for measuring the size of larger bolts, but I have used it when I'm on a repair job and I'm looking at a gearbox or a motor, and with an output shaft that I don't necessarily know the size of, can't really tell if it's a 1 7/16 or an 1.5 inch, and so that's coming quite handy for those applications as well. Then on the Surge, behind the file and the saw, you have the same thing that you're going to have on the Wave and Charge series, and that is an integrated lanyard loop. So if you want to carry your Surge on a lanyard, you have the ability, and it's built into the tool already. That's another great feature to Leatherman Surge. Now, you can add the pocket clip to it. Now, the pocket clip is designed for the Wave and Charge series. And if we pull it in here, you'll notice that, the Wave is quite a bit smaller than the Surge is. And so it's specifically built for this frame size. And what that does is, I wish they would make a separate one for those who do want to pocket carry the larger multi-tools like this, instead of trying to implement or use the same part, because it has a lot of movement to it. It does not seat in there as well as it's going to, as solidly as it will on the Wave or a Charge. I personally don't have to worry about it because I never pocket carry this tool. I think it's way too heavy for that, and I always sheath carry the Leatherman Surge. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the functionality, some of the hidden features, some of the hidden functions that they don't necessarily talk about with the Surge, and give you some of my opinions on why I think it is the best multi-tool out there. Now, if you've done any research, or if you're familiar with the Leatherman Surge, you'll no doubt know that they list the functions on the Leatherman Surge at 21, when in actuality it has a lot more. First and foremost, the plier design. Because it is this boxy, squared off plier design, one of the uses that I found for the Leatherman Surge is using it as a reaming device on the inside of EMT conduit and PVC pipe. So that if you're making a cut, and I have to run a lot of EMT because I have to run a lot of electrical EMT underneath equipment that we install that the electricians cannot get to after the fact. So we have to run a variety of different conduits. And I found that the functionality of, the way that is designed with that more squared off edge, it gives a little bit of a cut edge to the outside of the plier head, so that you can insert it into a freshly cut pipe and ream the inside of it to get rid of those burrs. That is one function that I found that works really well on the Leatherman Surge that they do not ever list. And the next one is going to be in the large screwdriver. Now, the large driver, Leatherman's weird about this. With certain multi-tools like the new Free series that come out, they list that as several different options or several different functions of tools. So in one version they'll say it's just a screwdriver, in another they'll say it's a screwdriver and a pry tool. Well, they don't list this as a pry tool, they only list it as a screwdriver in the Surge, but it actually works fantastic as a pry tool, and at 5/16 it's bigger than what you're going to find in the Wave, Charge, in the Free series, and works extremely well. So that is another function that they don't call out that it absolutely has. The next function that the Surge has that is not really called out, and that is the draw cut function. So the serrated blade has a mostly serrated blade, but it also has a very nice draw cut for those times when you need to make a more precise cut. And what I use the draw cut functionality for a lot is on job site we get a lot of boxes, a lot of equipment comes in and it's all boxed up with packaging tape, and I use that a lot for opening up those boxes. It just works fantastic as opposed to using my main blade, something that I really like about the Surge itself. The Leatherman Surge, for me, from my perspective as an industrial application, it just works phenomenal. Like I said before, they listed as 21 functions, but in actuality there is a lot more functions. So when you consider those three that I just pointed out, that brings it up to 24. And now if you consider the fact that you can change out for certain blades, now you've increased the functionality, maybe 4 or 5 different tools that you can add to the T-shank fixture. And if you really want to get technical with the driver capabilities that it allows, and the ability to add on about 40 different drivers to the Surge. Now you're in excess of 60 different functions that the Surge offers, and no other multi-tool comes close to that. It is just a phenomenal package of tools that the Leatherman has, and I think it's the most capable multi-tool out there, especially for my industry in construction as a blue-collar worker. I think that this is absolutely the best multi-tool out there. Now, it's not perfect, and there are some things that I would like to change on it. And let's talk about those right now. So if tomorrow Ben Rivera called me up and said, Ben, I'd like you to do some consulting with this on some of our multi-tools, would you be interested? Well, the first thing that I would say would be, claro que sí. How the hell do we get started? Absolutely. Let's do it. And the Surge would be one of those tools, would be the first one that I would want to attack. Now, one of the things that I think that the Surge line is missing is a premium version. I would love to see a version of the Surge that came with a better blade steel. So here we have the Charge Titanium, and then we've got the Charge AL, or the Charge Plus. Excuse me, it's not AL anymore. The Charge Plus. So the Charge comes with Charge Plus comes with a 154 cm blade, and the titanium version comes with an S30V blade. Both great blade steels, and the Surge only comes in a 428C. So one of the first things I would like to change would be a better blade steel in a premium version of the Surge. I think that would be outstanding. Now, when it comes to the serrated blade, I used to love the Charge blade, and I still do actually. Since the Free series came out, I've changed my opinion on what I would like to change with this. So the Charge has this gut hook in it, and I found a lot of uses for that. It's come in very handy because I used to carry a Charge back when I carried a Wave. I used to carry a Charge away from work. But since the Free series came out, I've changed my opinion on that. And what the Free series did, and I really like this blade, they have a nice serrated blade, but they've changed and made the tip of it a chisel point. And that works phenomenally well as a scraper. It's one of the things that I always wanted that Victorinox offers that Leatherman doesn't, and that is a chisel. But after seeing the new Free series, I would love to see this style of blade incorporated similarly in the Surge, but I would like to see it a little bit different. Where the Free series cuts back, I would like it to see it on the same angle that the Surge has on its blade right now. The reason I'd want it that way is because I want to maintain a nice sharp point on the front for draw cut capability. And then if you add in that chisel point up front, that would make a fantastic scraper or light duty chisel, and that is a tool that I would love to see in the Leatherman Surge. The next thing, or the last thing that I would want to change, no, I take that back. There's two other things that I would want to change. One is this driver. This particular driver is a bit redundant whenever you're carrying a bit kit. And there's one tool that I really love in the Leatherman Wingman, and it is this package opener. This package opener just works phenomenal. It is outstanding. It's an outstanding implement in a multi-tool, and it's the best I've ever used. In fact, I don't think I've ever even used a standard or a dedicated package opener that I like better than the one on the Wingman. It cuts through those clamshell packages like a hot knife through butter. It's really fantastic. I like it because while I can use my knife to do that function, or the draw cut knife on the serrated blade, I have more control with this blade, and I don't run the risk of ever slipping off and cutting myself. Another benefit to that is this particular cutter actually rolls the plastic over just a bit. So if you've ever cut through a clamshell package with a knife and then ended up nicking yourself with the sharp edge on the plastic, you'll understand what I mean. Well, this tool eliminates that. It kind of gives it more of a rolled edge, and I really like the control it offers, and this is a tool I would love to see in the Leatherman Surge. Now, the last tool that I would like to see in the Leatherman Surge is not part of the Surge itself, but rather one of the accessories. Now, while I love the extension that's on the Surge, it is proprietary to Leatherman's bits. So Leatherman has a much longer bit, and it has a tension spring inside of a retainer spring that holds in the bit on this notch that's in the center. Well, it doesn't allow you to insert standardized bits into it. I mean, they'll fit, but what happens is either if you have the shorter ones, they go way too deep and then they're very difficult to pull out, or if you have the longer ones, they just don't hold in that well. What I would like to see is a second version of the extension that would allow people who choose to do so the ability to use a standard 1/4 inch bit, so that it's not exclusive to just the proprietary bits of Leatherman. I think that would be a welcome addition. So those are 4 things that I would love to see changed in Leatherman. Hopefully one day they'll add a premium version of the Surge. I don't know, but I would love to see it. Now, from my perspective as a tradesman, this is absolutely the best multi-tool out there because of all those different multiple functions that I mentioned. I think a lot of it also comes down to the styling of the Surge itself. So much like the Wave, where it takes its cues from, the way the handle is broke, it goes down, in, up, and just it has 4 different breaks on it. So what that does is it makes the handles extremely strong because of all those different breaks. Anytime that you make a break in metal, it's why we have body lines in our cars, in our vehicles, because those breaks, those creases, increase the strength of the steel. And the Surge and Wave platform and Charge platform, they're all extremely comfortable in the hand, and they're all very stout, very strong. Another reason that I like it a lot is because it has these curved or radiused edges on the inside. Whenever you're using the plier, you do not have any hot spots. Now, I use the pliers a lot, and I use them in heavy duty use. So I'm cutting through like number 9 wire that our steel will come tied in, which is a very large tie wire, and not every multi-tool can get through it, but the Surge has zero problem getting through it. You have to put a lot of pressure behind it though. So if you have a multi-tool that has more of a sharp edge, like in a Super Tool 300 or perhaps the new Free line, you're going to feel that those hot spots are going to be amplified. In the Surge and in the Wave and Charge series, you do not have that problem. So a lot of the cues from the Wave are what I like a lot. I love the ability to be able to pull out my Surge from my pouch and easily get to the knives. That is a great feature. It's what drew me originally to the original Wave, and I love that particular styling. I think that the Wave, Charge, Surge series are some of the most perfect or closest to perfect multi-tools out there for what I do. So that is another great feature to the Surge. I think the Surge is just the best all-around multi-tool. Would I like to see some changes? Absolutely, I would like to see some changes. Like I mentioned before, this is a very heavy duty use multi-tool, and it's not light, so it's not going to be for everybody. Most people are going to gravitate towards the medium duty or standard duty multi-tools. Some are going to gravitate towards Victorinox for their styling and the features that they offer. There's nothing wrong with that. Those are all great multi-tools. Even the Juice series or a minimalist carry like a Skeletal CX are all fantastic multi-tools. But I think from my perspective, the Leatherman Surge is just absolutely the most capable, strongest multi-tool on the market today, and I don't think it's even close. My name's Ben. You've been watching my review of the Leatherman Surge here on the Texas Tool Crib. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.